This video is brought to you by me. If you'd like to support the channel, check out my Patreon in the description below, and for only $1 a month you can support the channel directly. Due to the mature nature of Killer7, viewer discretion is advised. It's rare to play something as unapologetically unique as Killer7, the first US released game by the director and producer quickly becoming one of my favorite gaming figureheads, Suda51. This game was originally part of the Capcom 5, which was 4 released games released as exclusives for the Nintendo GameCube, which is also a lie considering almost all of them got released elsewhere. I've covered one of these games on my channel recently, Beautiful Joe, and I found that to be an incredibly rewarding experience as well. But other than simply being part of the Capcom 5 family, these two games don't really share any qualities. In fact, Killer7 doesn't share many qualities with anything I've ever played before, and I mean that as a compliment to the highest degree. This game has a way of embedding itself in your head, clawing at you even when you're not playing it, because the story itself is so dense that you'll be chewing on it for a long time after the end credits roll. And as this game is difficult to peel back alone, I brought in an expert, a friend of mine who loves this game to death, William. He was actually the one who recommended I look at the game to begin with, and we finally got to sit down on Zoom and discuss the game we both love so much. Audio clips of our discussion will be spliced into the normal video structure as we go, so please forgive the varying levels of audio quality. Now, when William came to me and asked if he could promote himself on my channel, I said no free clout for anyone. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited that I finally got to talk about Killer7 with somebody, because that never happens, especially now that I can't see anyone.
Yeah, it's not one that really comes up in conversation much anyway.
When talking about Killer7, spoilers hardly exist due to how much symbolism and how many concepts open to interpretation there are with everything to do with it.
Like, none of it makes sense, and like I think it's kind of intentional.
I think it's supposed to be open to interpretation. So I kind of interpreted it.
Putting it.
Yeah. Open to interpretation. Deliberately confusing. So while we won't give everything away, we'll discuss parts of the game from beginning to end. And while William decided to spare you of his theories on the game, I have no such shame. So buckle up. In my opinion, the game is a commentary on power and the cyclical nature of power struggles. They never end. And by the time you put the controller down after your first playthrough, you're left to wonder if the entire story you just played through was ultimately pointless. The final moments look astonishingly similar to the opening moments of the game. The actual threat to the world that we're trying to take care of is Kunlan leading this terrorist organization called the Heaven Smile, where they send these zombie-like dead beings to raise terror on everybody else. And we play as the Killer7, who is the only group of assassins who can take care of them, because anybody else, if they get touched by a Heaven Smile, is immediately killed.
Yeah, and I think they're the only ones who can like distinguish them from like regular people too.
And what I find most interesting is that the entire game takes place during the era of world peace. This sham of an era where the rivalries for territory and war and terrorism are all fought behind closed doors.
So it starts off and there's like, I think they mentioned there's like no internet anymore for safety, and there's like no flying anymore, and it's just all like intercontinental railways, like, and then that's just never brought up again. That doesn't factor into it in the slightest after that.
By the time all is said and done, we witness cities used as guinea pigs run by the American government in a microcosm for how society responds to different events. We see tension build between countries and political parties rise as they try to kneecap their rival parties in the name of power, and we see conspiracy form over the legitimacy of elections within America. And all this happens while we, the players, control characters who bridge the gap between life and death. Killer7 happens in the gray area. There's this sense of hidden information throughout, and it makes you question if your actions are good, bad, or neither. And if it sounds like I'm being vague, I'm really trying to capture how in the dark you are the entire time.
Like I said, I think the game almost works a little bit better if you don't like stress yourself out trying to make a sense of it. I think if anyone wants to play it, like that's the one thing I'd recommend is like just like let it wash over you. Like don't try to like morph it into a coherent narrative because there's really no like the first time you play it, you really just don't have a chance.
During the course of gameplay, we play as 7 different assassins known as the Killer7, led by their seasoned leader, Harmon Smith. Oh, and all of their last names are Smith too. At first, I thought they were a family of assassins, but as the story progresses, you start to get the idea that something more sinister might be at play. Ooh, foreshadowing. As the Killer7 seemingly exist between life and death, they are the only ones capable of dealing with and disposing of the Heaven's Smile. These zombie-like beings who can't be seen or killed by normal people and wear a grin ear to ear while laughing maniacally. Each of the killers have their own unique abilities as well that help the player navigate levels.
So we've got Garshin, who insists that
I'm a cleaner.
What's interesting is when you die, your character that you're playing as, whether it be Dan or Mask, they drop a like doggy bag where they died. And Garshin has to go and pick them up. And I thought that was really cool because then you have the stress of not only getting back to where you were, but Garshin can't be upgraded. So you're constantly trying to figure out the best course of action to get there and make sure you don't get a game over.
Yeah, he's stuck with like a pea shooter and like he's not built for combat. Despite the fact that he's like really, really tall. I don't know if you noticed that, but
Yeah,
like
I did.
the point of view on him is like heightened up by like several feet.
Oh yeah.
The other characters for some reason.
He just towers over people.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's also not someone you want to play as. You're just trying to get that brown lunch sack and get back.
So then there's the other 6. There's Dan Smith, who's like, to me, he's the sharpshooter of the group. He's the one who takes out the nests that spawn the Heaven Smile. He was fun to play as. Then there's Kaede, who Dan keeps insisting is ugly. Kaede can pick locks, which was awesome because I was at first in that first level I was like, I gotta find these keys, I don't know how to get around, and then I like looked it up and it was just like Cody can pick any lock. I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay. Great.
Yeah, it's just kind of the middleman there.
There's Kevin Smith, who's hunched over but he's very fast and can turn invisible.
Yeah, he can do like the gymnastics too if you do the quick turnaround with him.
Oh yeah, he does like these like corkscrew flips and things like that. And so I thought Kaede was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is spelled in all caps. She's voiced by Tara Strong, like the voice of Bubbles from Powerpuff Girls, Harley Quinn. She's like Timmy Turner. She's like the voice of our childhood, essentially. That was really cool. That character uses blood to destroy barriers and reveal messages. That's when I started getting that feeling of horror. When she like just shoots blood from her wrist and reveals things.
In a little bad taste, but yeah.
Yeah. Who am I forgetting? Then there's Mask, who we talked about. He's a luchador. He's always wearing a mask. He's got 2 grenade launchers. He can suplex different items out of the way, which I thought was very funny. He doesn't just move them because they're heavy. He has to do like a German suplex.
Yeah.
And then, am I forgetting someone? Oh, Con Smith. Con is like the kid of the group, from what I gather, because Con's the only one who can like get through smaller corridors, go through specific areas. I think she can jump down like a garbage chute at one point as a shortcut.
Yeah, I think they like got the whole like Daredevil thing of like enhanced senses or something that you utilize exactly once in the game. Yeah,
and so the bandana is over Khan's eyes, just like Daredevil in the show.
In some ways, Dan and Mask seem like the main characters because they get upgrades outside of the main upgrade system. Dan gets a demon gun that doubles his magazine size, Mask the Smith slowly levels up his in-ring attire until he becomes an uber-powerful wrestler. His outfits change to signify the upgrades, and his dual-wield grenade launchers become more and more powerful and hold more rounds. But even though these two feel like a centerpiece of Killer 7, they always feel one rung lower on the ladder than Garshian, the true character at the center of the story. In a lot of ways, even though you'll play as him the least and potentially never if you aren't me and good at this game, he's the one driving the story forward. As the game goes on, you start to peel back small layers as he becomes more curious about his past. He sees his confidant killed as he tries to tell Garshian who our character really is. We even see the dark event that led to the Killer 7 being formed and how it mostly began when Garshian took it upon himself to ascend the many stories of a hotel, killing a member of the group on each floor. And his mission culminates when he meets Harmon for the first time after the deed is done.
Harmon and Garshian met, and Harmon took Garshian under his wing, and after killing the rest of the Killer 7, he kind of absorbed their personalities, and now you know how, so when he's in Garshian's trailer house and he's getting the crap kicked out of him and he's just unresponsive, that was due to a fight with
Kunlan.
Yeah, Kunlan. He was basically put into that state by Kunlan, and I think that Garshian's the only one who can get through on kind of a spiritual level or something like that. Like they don't interact face to face. It's on a different plane.
Yeah, it kind of seems that way when he's telling her to turn the lights off and on. Yeah, it's I don't know, it seems to directly contradict itself with Garshian's really the only one, but then Harmon's really the only one there is, and he's some sort of avatar for all of them, but so is Harmon. None of it makes sense, and I think it's kind of intentional.
To me, this game becomes Garshian's journey in finding the truth behind his origin, as he hears screams from his past calling to him. And by the time it's over, it starts to feel like time keeps looping back on itself as history repeats itself, and Garshian relives the events and finds clarity about who he is and where he's been. But for most of the game, his role is minimal in terms of gameplay. Garshian is the one who accepts assignments on behalf of the group and also acts as their cleaner, the person sent to retrieve the remains of the Smiths who fall in battle. He's the weakest of the bunch, but he's massively important to avoid a game over. If you haven't put it together from how we've discussed it, there's a sense of indirect horror at the edge of Killer 7. It has its fair share of ghosts, but there's something else to it: the control scheme. What will likely catch a lot of first-time players off guard is the on-rails navigation, or at least I know it did for me.
Yeah, I'll say that too. That first level is rough. It's not super fun because you're still kind of getting used to everything control-wise, which are very strange. And you don't really know what's going on with the narrative. And the level itself just is definitely the least interesting level. It's just a building compared to they have a sushi restaurant or someone's apartment or a carnival ground or something. So it's just you really got to make yourself kind of just have some faith that it's going to get better after that first level.
The actual first-person shooting mechanic is just as different. Before you can kill Heaven Smile, you have to scan your surroundings for them. A Heaven Smile inches toward you, but you forgot to reload your weapon from the encounter in the last room. Too late. It dives at you and explodes while you're trying to put bullets in the gun because you're on rails and had nowhere to run. It's unconventional, but effective. Killer 7 makes you feel nervous and on edge. The rails you run on make you feel trapped, like you have nowhere to run no matter how big the area you are in might feel. I've played plenty of horror games and will probably cover a few in the coming weeks, but most rely on cheap jump scares to get the horror tag. Killer 7 doesn't outright carry itself as a game meant to frighten you, but in spite of that, it kept me on edge with a constant chill running down my spine. There's an in-game upgrade system that you can dump the blood of dead Heaven Smiles into. You can choose to make the Smiths aim less shaky, you can make your characters lock onto weak spots, and you can upgrade their reload speed. No matter how many upgrades you buy, you still feel weak sometimes. The upgrades you unlock help a lot when taking out the baseline Heaven Smiles with a certain health you need to deplete, but other Heaven Smiles require different approaches to be killed. Some have weak spots that you need to hit, and some can only be killed by specific smiths. Now, full disclosure, while I was playing Killer7, I missed the idea of upgrades for about half the game, which means I imposed a lot of difficulty on myself that was totally unnecessary. At some point, I had been banking a ton of blood and didn't know why, so when I finally figured it out, I upgraded everyone a ton. Even then, I feel like there were times when no amount of upgrades could have saved me. Killer7 gives you the feeling of being prepared while never letting you feel overly confident, and that's what I think I love most about it. It sets out to create an unsettling atmosphere and sticks to it in game feel, music composition, and its unique use of cell shading.
And in my experience, cell shading is usually this kind of art style that brings out a cartoony and lighthearted kind of feeling and aura. And with this game, it uses these dark grays and oranges, and it just creates this really scary feeling that meshes perfectly with the gameplay.
Yeah, it's not like it never like goes into, I guess, full-on horror at all, but like it's definitely like a little unnerving, I guess. That's another thing that I think is interesting and like kind of intentional about it, is that the art style kind of changes with the wind. You know, like sometimes it's like a like traditional anime, and then sometimes like when you go to the Texas chapter, it gets this whole different art style going. I think like that's kind of your, if you hadn't already figured out, that's probably your first indication that you shouldn't really be trying to keep up with what's going on. Like,
a lot of what I love about this game is atmosphere and not knowing what is real and what is fake.
yeah, all the like different designs of the locations are really cool too. Like I guess they all kind of, like, real isn't the right word, but like they were designed like they could be lived in, I guess. Like when you go to like Curtis Blackburn's apartment, like it's obviously like way too big and ornate, but it doesn't feel like it couldn't be like a real apartment.
Even the missions you take aren't what they always appear to be on the surface. At first they seem straightforward when you start. Your objective is set, kill X person, find X object. But once you start, things are rarely as cut and dry as they appear. As the levels go on, you have to solve puzzles that aren't necessarily difficult, but they are obscure and ask you to be aware of your surroundings. These puzzles usually reward you with one of a few items. The first reward is an odd engraving, which is mainly a blanket statement for a key. You usually have to find at least one of them per level to proceed. The second reward is a series of elemental rings that can act as tools to help you solve some of the more obscure puzzles in the game. There are a ton of these things, ranging from water, to fire, to wind, to time, and even more beyond that. And these are all obtained from a severed head named Susie. The last items are soul shells. You have to collect them to pay the toll to the gatekeeper in the Vinculum Gate, the toll booth between dimensions that acts as a breeding ground for New Heaven's Smile. And if you thought the puzzles were obscure, you've got another thing coming. Your final bosses, for a lack of a better term, usually have a specific weak spot or certain goals you must complete in order to defeat them.
I don't know, a lot of them like aren't really, like a lot of them are just kind of more like puzzles than anything else. A lot of them don't last very long if you know what you're doing. Either. Like the only one that's like kind of a traditional like boss fight, how you would think, is the one at the beginning of the first level with the two guys in the boardroom. Like it actually involves some dodging and you know, running around and try to find their weak point and all that. The rest of them are like pretty swift, I guess. Like the Curtis one is just quick time event for, you know, all intents and purposes. And then like the one with like the Power Ranger stand-in is like completely on rails.
It's totally scripted.
That, like, yeah, it's scripted. You can't. There's not really much to do there.
They are interesting for their unique gameplay and challenges. Some are harder than others, but I never knew what to expect, and that alone kept me engaged. Killer7 is a game that is so dense that no matter who you show it to, they'll get something different out of it. It holds a mirror up to the audience and asks them what they want to see in it. It spits information at you that may be true or false and asks you what you think of all of it. What do you think is true and what do you think is false? And just when you've got it all figured out, it takes another left turn. And to me, that's what makes Killer7 so thrilling. It has a story that evolves in meaning and asks you to play it over and over again to begin to understand what is actually happening. It stays with you well after the credits roll, it creeps in, and the laughter you hear 100 times from the Heaven Smiles will haunt you while you're in bed at night. And if that's not the sign of a good game, I don't know what is. Thank you to William for coming onto the video and talking about Killer7. I had a blast chatting about it. To the viewers, thank you for making it this far into the video, I really appreciate it. If you like this video, consider leaving a like on it. If you really like the video, you could hit the subscribe button. I won't stop you. Have you played Killer7? What do you think of it, and what did you get out of it? Let me know in the comments down below, and lastly, if you want to support my channel directly, consider checking out my Patreon in the description below. I have tiers starting at $1, and a pledge even that low goes a really long way in keeping this channel going. And with that, I want to thank my Patreon subscribers from the higher tier, Sebastian Pereira and 8-Bit Jesus.
Maybe someone in the comments like, well, actually, it's really simple.
Yeah, oh god.
No,
I
what
cannot
about
wait
that?
for the dissertation written in the comment section. It's just like, I actually got my PhD for writing about
It's like a
Killer7
meme.
story structure.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd love to interview that person. If somebody
Yeah.
comes on and is just like, I got a master's degree because I wrote about Killer7, I would be like, please, I will make a follow-up video. We gotta talk
Yeah.
about this.
It makes perfect sense. Really.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. In fact, you're supposed to play the game backward.
Yeah, I could.